Everybody get up, no need to cram now. We got a real jam going down, going down, going down, going down, going down, going down. Welcome to the IntelliJAMS.
We are back with another jam, and continuing with our trend, I'm trying to bring on the best of the best to talk about testing, and today is no different. I've got Agus, who is the co-founder of DTCPages, joining today, and we were having a little bit of a conversation before actually recording here about like what were we going to talk about today, and you told me, hey, there really is only one thing to talk about for this episode, and it is a section of the site that you think anyone who's going to start testing should be focused there. So what are we talking about today?
Thanks, Alex, for the invite. I'm very excited to be here. That things first. And yeah, like the buy box. So whenever we start with a new client, we always think like, where should we put our resources on? What should we optimize first? And we always think about the top landing pages in terms of traffic, the cart, the checkout, the product pages. But what exactly in these pages do we need to optimize? Or where are we going to see the highest return on investment from optimization? And my take is always start with the buy box area. So either if you're optimizing a PDP page, scroll down if you're on a landing page to the buy box section. The buy box section, if people don't know, is the area where users can select the option they want to buy and they can add to cart. So it usually has like the CTA, it shows the price, it shows the product image, etc. Focus on that section. Why? Because a small improvement there can create a huge return for your company. So to this call today, I brought 3 different tests that we run for some of our clients. I just realized that most of these tests are for supplement brands, but I think it applies to any brand, really. What I'm proposing is once you start an optimization process, instead of thinking of adding stuff to your page, adding stuff to your buy box, think it the other way around. Think of like, what things can we remove from the buy box to make the purchase funnel easier, reduce friction, and ultimately increase conversion rates at profit per visitor.
Love it. So today we have 3 tests that we're going to go through. Thank you for bringing these. We love when we can show the blue bars on screen, explain what happened. And on theme, like you were saying, all 3 of these tests are actually removing something from the buy box instead of adding something in. So we're going to go through 3 different tests that you have run. And again, supplement brand, but I think a lot of these are applicable outside of that. Now, if you're an apparel brand, maybe there isn't going to be like quantity selectors unless you're selling socks or something like that. But I think this is generally applicable to most D2C brands. So the 3 tests we have a test where we removed the cart step and just allow people to jump straight into buying. And then we have a test on the frequency selection for a subscription product, and then the quantity buttons and basically the number of quantity buttons that sit inside of that buy box. So of those 3 tests, is there one where you would prefer to start to jam on?
Yeah, let's start with the removing the cart step. Because I think this topic is like quite popular at the moment on X. I've seen a lot of people discussing this. It's something we've tested multiple times. And it doesn't always work. It really depends on like what, like if you're sending traffic to a PDP or a landing page and what products are you selling and who is your user base. Let me share my screen so I can show you. Here we created a quick mock-up showing the before and after. So the test is very simple. In the before, we have a 3-step funnel. So it was landing page, cart drawer, and checkout. And in the buy box area, we had an add to cart call to action. And then in the after, we remove the cart drawer. So we simplified the funnel to make it only 2-step. This is landing page, checkout. And the call to action, instead of being add to cart, we changed it, or we replaced it with buy now. This is important because I've seen a lot of stores removing the cart step, but still keeping the add to cart call to action. And that is a problem for the user, because if you're telling the user this button adds to cart, but then it actually takes to checkout, that's probably going to hurt your conversion rate. So the call to action you use is important in the setup of the test. So as I said, we tested this removing a step in multiple clients, but in this particular time, I want to discuss the test we did for a pet supplement brand. So they were sending most of the traffic. Oh, sorry, my dog is shaking the table and it's making this. He's itchy. So we tested this on a pet supplement brand who were sending most of the traffic to the meta traffic to a single landing page. And when we remove the step and change the CTA, we can show the results from IntelliJAMS also on screen. We saw a massive increase in conversion rate. So this is a 6.2% lift with a 99% significance. The significance is the part that gets me excited here. Like 99% means that there's 0 chance or like 1% chance that this is a loser. So it's like a very strong, robust result. Like removing the step reduce a lot of the friction in the landing page funnel and increase conversion rate in a significant manner of a 6.2%. However, when we look at the AOV, we did see a drop in the average order value. Why? Because we removed the real estate in the cart where we were able to show when we had like the cross-sell opportunity, if you like.
Yep.
But overall, when you look at the profit per visitor, even though the results were not significant, we got so as a side note, we consider statistical significance when we get like 90% of more probability to beat control. And when we look at profit per visitor, the significance was 77%, and the increase was 2.7%. So we would call this an inconclusive test in terms of profit per visitor. Directionally is positive, which is something good. But still, I would consider this test a win, because if we see an inconclusive profit per visitor, but a win on CBR and a drop on AOV, I'd rather implement this test and have that result, because in the long term, all those new customers that we acquire are going to create us, are going to be buying the product in the future. And when we calculate for lifetime value, that will mean more profits and more revenue in the long term. So that's the first one. Any questions here or anything?
Yeah. So it makes sense. Like, hey, we're removing friction here. Conversion's going to go up. AOV is going to go down. So we talked about, hey, this is for a supplement brand. Do they have like a robust catalog? Because like on the AOV going down by 2.7% here, my thinking goes to like, hey, if someone has a lot more of like an exploratory catalog where it's like, hey, I'm going to buy this, and then I might want to go search and like complete the outfit or something like that, then maybe we see the AOV take a slightly bigger hit because we're just trying to get someone like straight to buy said thing and kind of like removing the exploration around the site. Like, do you see when you said, hey, sometimes these are winners, sometimes these are losers, does it tend to be something around that? Like AOV just takes too much of a hit for the conversion bump in a test like this?
Yeah, I can think of 2 reasons why this test could lose. One is the thing you mentioned. Maybe like that cross-sell opportunity is very important. Like the drop in AOV is so significant that it impacts your profit per visitor in a negative way. That's the first one. And the second one, for some products, think of like products that are relatively more expensive or that they need way more education. It can happen that users, maybe they add a product to the cart, but they're not ready to check out yet. They need to go back to the product page or to the home page and figure out something about your product that they haven't understood. So they need to read more. Like maybe the time from landing to conversion is longer because they need more education. So when you remove the step, you prevent them from learning, and that actually might hurt your conversion rate at the end. So really, like the only way of knowing is testing, to be honest.
Yep.
But once deciding if you're going to prioritize this test or not, look at those factors.
Love that. I mean, something we say at IntelliJAMS all the time is like, don't guess, know. And the only way to know is to test. So, hey, look at the realities of your business, test in the realities of your business, and decide for yourself. So I love that. All right. So we have the cart step removal here, the other two. So maybe let's go to the next one, which was the frequency selector. So this frequency selector is related to subscription products specifically and the frequency on which I want that to be delivered on subscription.
Correct. So this is another supplement. So the previous one was a pet supplement brand. This is a supplement brand for menopausal women. We tested it. This was a client. And their objective is to increase the amount of subscribers, ultimately. That's their top goal in their optimization program. So on the product pages and the landing pages, when users choose the subscribe and save option here on the left, they can also choose the amount of jars, and they can choose what is the delivery frequency. So the test was simply removing this option altogether, and just forcing users to pick a delivery frequency based on the number of jars they get. So if it's 1 jar, it's every 30 days. If it's 2, every 60, and if it's 3, every 90. So some people will think like, actually like giving users more flexibility or more options is something good, because at the end of the day, they can choose whatever product fits their needs best. But in reality, having another option might just create friction. It's like, okay, like I put myself in the shoes of the user. Okay, I'm considering subscribing because I get a discount. I want to buy 1 jar. And now I need to make another consideration or another choice, deciding how often do I want my product to arrive. And maybe like on a single user, it doesn't make much of a difference, but on the aggregate, some users might just drop off from the funnel altogether and not convert and not buy. That was our hypothesis, and that's actually what happened. So when we tested this, subscriptions increased on almost at 20%. That's a massive increase for this client, sorry. I just show you, like, I see, like in the previous test, you mentioned like when removing the cart makes sense for a client and when it doesn't. I think for this particular client, it works so well because their audience tends to be relatively older. So it's like menopausal woman. So whenever you're adding like fancy UX features or additional buttons or scrolls, whatever, like it makes them have to make a decision on the page, it usually ends up hurting the conversion because it just creates friction. They're not that tech savvy. Not only did we get a 20% increase in subscription rate, but also we got a 25% increase in subscription profits per visitor. And both of these metrics were on a 99% statistical significance. So they're very, very robust.
This is interesting. So maybe you don't have this off the top of your head, but so in this test here, we combine the subscription delivery frequency with the jar amount. So we got the 30, 60, 90 days here, and we're making the assumption that we are using a jar every 30 days. So I think like even just from like shrinking the consideration here, I put myself in the customer's shoes and I'm like, okay, I want 1 jar. Do I need that every 30 days? Do I need that every 60 days? Now I'm going to go research how long does this last? I'm going to go through all the reviews. I'm going to try to comb through and see what other people are saying. So I can see how this reduces the friction there. Did you see people like gravitate towards one of these options more so than the other when you changed it over? Like were you getting a lot of 1 jars on the 30, a lot of 2 jars on the 60? And did it change kind of like the makeup as you did this, or did it just get more of what was already happening?
That's a great question. I should look at the data because I don't have it top of my mind, but that is a great question. That's something definitely we can study.
Cool. All right. So I like this one. This one obviously is specific to if you have a consumable or a repeatable product that you can put on subscription. But our next test doesn't necessarily need to be something that is on subscription, just something that has the ability to select a certain amount of it.
Yeah, correct. So this is, again, another test where we remove choices from the buy box and we see an improvement in performance, so conversion rate and profit per visitor. So this is very common. On the left, we see what we call a quantity breaks discount. So if you buy more of the item, the price per item gets discounted. It's super common in e-commerce. I see it in supplements, I see it in clothing, I see it in actually in every single niche. Everybody does. Like buy one, get one free is a quantity breaks version as well. So our client, they had 5 different buying options on their PDP. You can buy 1, 2, 3, 6, and 12 jars, all at different prices. And from our data, we learned that actually most of the users were just buying 1, 3, and 6. Like those were the most popular choices customers were selecting. So the test was simply removing options and sticking to the top 3. And the results were incredible. We saw a 13% increase in profit per visitor. So this is usually when we look at when we're running experiments, most of the experiments make around like 2-5% increase, and that's like a really good win. When you get a test that makes a 13% profit increase in profit per visitor, it's like a discrete jump in performance for the client. So again, why does this work? Well, when you have so many choices, you're forcing the user to consider how many jars they want to buy. So it's adding a lot of friction in the purchase funnel. So at the end, you're just making it harder and hurting yourself. Reduce the amount of choices, and you'll see your conversion rate increase.
This is interesting too, because even like, yes, there's a lot of options here. And there's that classic, like, I forget there's like an actual psychological study that was done. And I think it was like selling jams in a supermarket. And it was like, hey, 36 jam options, how much do people buy versus 3? It's like reduce the options. People can make a decision easier. That's going to get more people to buy. That makes sense. I think like the one interesting thing here for me is like at 12 jars, or like when you get up into that volume, you're essentially like kind of offering like a wholesale price at that point. It's like, hey, buy all these things in bulk. So like when you were looking at the profit per visit here, or like, hey, AOV, by actually forcing people who are taking like the bigger price breaks at the like very high quantities to then buy at like the 6 jar, like I'm assuming that actually had a bump in profit per visit, and like AOV is because you're making more per product in that, and like forcing the big buyers of these things to buy at like something that is more profitable for you.
Yeah. Actually, when you look at the results, the lift in profit per visitor was mainly generated by an increase in conversion rate. So what's going on here is like when you reduce the choices, you get more orders. So in AOV, so like a 1% increase, but it was not statistically significant. So there was no real change in average order value.
Interesting.
But the increase in CBR was so high that then profit soared.
Very, very interesting. Okay,
it's
so
like this.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Alex. It's like I don't know if this happens to you, but I don't know. I come back from work and I need to start making decisions regarding like what do I have, what do I want to have for dinner, it's like the concept of decision overload is real, and we experience it like on our day-to-day. This is the same thing our customers are experiencing. So the easier or the more we reduce the choices, well, not always, but if we are able to find the ideal point where we reduce choices to the point that we can increase CVR, that is like the ultimate goal of a CRO program. Like make it easy. At the end of the day, CRO is the process by which you help users find products and buy them. And when you're offering this many options, you're not helping them make a purchase, honestly.
I feel that. Actually, just the other day, my wife's like, I don't want to make anything tonight. We're going to order something. And honestly, the back and forth on what to order takes longer than actually cooking something. There's just like so many options. Oh, do you want this? Not feeling that. Okay, back and forth like for 40 minutes before you actually decide what you're going to order. So like I totally get that.
What I do is like you choose I'm okay with whatever you want. Because I know that's going to be the fastest route. I know like care is like eating. So whatever you want, buy, I'll be okay with it.
I always get my wife's always like, you choose, and then I choose it. And it's like, oh, but I'm not really feeling that. I'm like,
Yes,
okay,
that's
then you choose.
That's my case. That's my case as well.
All right. So kind of in summary, buy box, super important area to run optimizations in. This is something that most D2C brands are going to be able to experiment within, potentially big gains to be had, especially since a lot of ad traffic is going to be pointing to specific PDPs, so we can get a lot of value out of here. Your big thing is before testing, adding additional things, try removing some pieces, removing the amount of decisions that need to be made, the amount of steps that are there to reduce that friction to hopefully get a bump in conversion.
Yeah, 100%. And also it's like, think of the way you use your optimization resources. So sometimes it's easier and it will take you less effort to remove stuff and you get a bigger return on investment than to add additional stuff. That like when you're creating your experimentation roadmap, think not only of what is the impact of your test, but also how many resources you're going to invest in those projects.
That is a really good call out, and something that like I've actually been having a lot of conversations around lately, especially when it comes to people testing offers. So it's like, hey, I have this offer and it's being done through this app and this app and this app, and like, hey, it gets really confusing inside of here. It's like, hey, if you want to test like the offer itself and not necessarily like that full experience, strip it back. Is there a way that you can like get that test out for 2 weeks and like get something going and like actually know, and then you can decide how you want to like instrument that across all these different touch points. But like, hey, how can I go and learn quickly and in a way where I'm actually going to get conclusive results, rather than like, oh, I would want to do X, Y, and Z, but that from a resource perspective, like you were saying, is like, okay, that experiment's not going to get live for another 3 weeks. That's a 3-week opportunity cost of like, maybe you could have got the results of that in 3 weeks and you would be implementing a winner rather than just getting started.
Exactly. Yeah, I see that all the time. That's like a noob mistake with optimization, like focusing too much on perfection. Like we always say, a day not tested is a day wasted. Like you have all this data that your store is producing, and if you're not launching, if you don't have anything at the moment, if you don't have anything testing at the moment, you're losing money. Literally, it's like data you're not harvesting. So like put up a test right now and then figure out how you can improve it afterwards.
I love that line. A line I've been using a lot lately is like, the worst thing you can do is stand still. So like, hey, any idle time where you're not trying something and learning something is time wasted. There's an opportunity cost of that. And like, hey, you can get into this experiment and then you can tee up the next experiment from there. Like always be learning, always be progressing towards something, because even something you learned today probably isn't going to hold for the next like quarter, month, maybe even week. The market's too dynamic. So like always be testing.
100%.
All right. Before I let you go, any other like kind of tips, advice that you want anyone listening to kind of like walk away with from the buy box or just in experimentation and testing in general? Final thoughts?
Yeah. So like if you're starting with an optimizations program, focus, like I said at the beginning, focus on the pages that have the most traffic. Like sometimes people like go and optimize their homepage, for instance, and they're not sending any traffic to the homepage. And that's a waste of time and resources. Or you're like optimizing your top landing page, but you're just like, I don't know, updating colors or like just changing the copy of the CTA. Focus on the things that matter and will have the biggest impact. So understand what are the pages that are getting the most traffic, understand what the funnel looks like. So if it's a landing page, is it landing page, product page, cart checkout, landing page, cart checkout, and optimize everything you can in the funnel and focus on the highest leverage sections, which from my perspective, the top one is the buy box.
I love that. Basically, don't nibble, go take an actual bite at something. Like if you nibble and try to do kind of like small things here and there, I feel like a lot of people they want to do that to try to like get started and get momentum, but it actually kills momentum because like you're doing a lot, but you're not actually moving anywhere. So yeah, love that. Dude, this was amazing. Thanks so much for jumping on and jamming with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Alex. That was really good.